Thank you for joining us again here at Get Ready News. My name is Mark Lindstead. This is my brother David Lindstead. And we like to cover some news articles and actually want to kind of change things up and do it with a little humor and a lot of biblical lens.
You know, there's a lot to be said for laughter is the best medicine,
Yeah.
and I've had some issues this last couple of weeks we've been going through, and my brother will be going through some of the same things here in the future, and a little bit of laughter and a lot of God's Word makes a big difference in how you see the world.
Sure does. I have, the Lord has given me peace about some of my things. For those who don't know, I've been diagnosed with colon cancer, so I'll be going through some surgeries here and possibly chemotherapy. So we'll see how that comes out. David might be on his own for a few shows or have Emma as a guest, but we'll get through it. The Lord's good to us.
Amen to that. He's the ultimate comforter and the ultimate person who's in control of everything.
Amen. That's for sure. Well, you can see on the screen behind us here, this is our YouTube channel, Get Ready News, and feel free to subscribe to that. Like I say, there's videos from the past where we go more in-depth, more serious news-wise, but we're trying to get a little more lighthearted about it and really enjoy the absurdity of the world. Let's just call it that.
Yeah, the world is spiraling out of control. They don't know why. They can't figure out what's going on. And for those that are Christians, we have a solitude. We have a place of strength. And we can view all these things in that strength.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was just thinking to myself the other day, I'm trying to remember what the belief is called where they think the world is just going to get better and better and better till all the sin is gone, and then we'll enter the kingdom.
Yeah, that's more of what they call like an all millennialist view, that we have to get the world to shape up, and then once they gets to a certain point, Christ will then come again.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that think that this means Christ in your heart, and there's going to be so many people that are Christians that things are going to get really good, and some people believe that an actual Jesus will come when that happens.
That's interesting because if you look at the world right now, it's not on an upswing of morality. It's on a downtrend.
Absolutely. It's ludicrous to have that idea because we see man just gets worse and worse. I don't see any place where man's getting better and better.
No, and I think we're getting close to the days of Noah.
Amen to that. I think Noah's implications are far more reaching than what we ever thought, and I see today matching those crazy times in Noah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The first thing I want to talk about is President Trump meeting with South Africa's president. And in this article, it says it derails an effort to cool the tensions. I'm kind of happy it derailed the cooling of tensions.
Absolutely. This is fantastic. There's been a problem in this part of the world for a long time. And even with Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I find absolutely crazy is that a lot of people think that Nelson Mandela died in prison.
Yeah.
But he actually did not. He came out of prison, became president of this part of the country.
Yeah.
But Nelson Mandela was a bad man.
Wait a minute. He's a hero. They got T-shirts made of him.
If you're going to wear Che, I guess you could wear a Nelson Mandela. Now, they claim about the apartheid down there and all this craziness that was going on. Well, Nelson Mandela was doing terrorist attacks on innocent people.
Yes. Yeah.
And he is being praised for killing innocent people.
Yeah. Well, the same people that praise him are now calling Israel genocidal maniacs.
Absolutely.
So we can see that the world is not getting better. It's actually evil is being called good and good is being called evil.
Exactly. And this very thing that happened here is just a carryover from the Mandela era.
Yeah, for sure. And my favorite thing is, as they say now today, Trump brought receipts.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't just say, hey, we need to talk about what's going on in your country. He says, I got a whole stack of people here. Why was this person killed? Why was this person killed? And he gave that stack to the president of South Africa. Here, check into these.
Yeah. Yeah. This has needed to happen for a long time.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere has to be accountable for what's going on. And Trump is brazen enough to say, hey, this isn't right.
Yeah.
Something's wrong here.
Well, he's not worried about re-election.
No.
But even if he was, I think he still would have done it.
I agree.
And I'm telling you what, a president who brings receipts to the world stage and says, you're wrong, you're doing this wrong. And oh, by the way, I've got a video for you to watch. Let me turn down the lights in the Oval Office.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
bringing in a TV, and we're going to watch a video because I want you to understand we know.
Yeah.
And, and I would vote for him again just because of the way he handles these situations.
Absolutely. And anybody that's part of his staff that might want to run, if they carry on the torch,
Yeah.
that is worth that in office. I mean, to have somebody that honest about what's going on and calling this out.
Yeah.
Horrible things are going on in South Africa, and it's being swept under the rug because it's reverse racism. You know,
Yeah.
you talk to people in America, and they've got this idea that if you're white, you can't be racist. You can't be racist against the white
If you're
person.
black, you can't be racist against a black person. That's what you said. If you're white,
Right, I'm pardon me, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's anti-whiteism is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, and I'm never made any bones about this. To me, there's no such thing as racism. There's such thing as I don't like the color of your skin because we're all one race.
Absolutely.
We all have the same grandparents,
Yep.
Adam and Eve,
Yep.
Noah and his wife, whoever you want to talk about. We all have the same grandparents. There is only one race, the human race, and so we're judging people based on the color of their pigmentation.
Yep.
They're not a different race.
No. I agree 100%, and I think that the genetic code backs that up.
Yeah.
For you to think that there's a difference between skin colors is for you to think that each race came about evolutionary at different times.
Yeah.
But everybody is of the same exact makeup.
Well, and for those who want to push evolution, Darwin used evolution to say that people of darker or closer skin color to apes
Yeah.
were less evolved than the rest of people. He was using it to diminish people,
Yes.
not to say a brilliant idea on how we got here.
No, that is absolutely correct. His goal was to prop up white and diminish color.
Yeah.
And even the pygmies in Australia, and there was a big push to go down there and to find the missing link,
Yeah.
and they thought they were going to find a living missing link.
It just blows my mind. It's just like the falseness of history.
Yeah.
Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood,
Yeah.
abortion. She was not doing it to control the entire population.
No.
She was doing it to control one specific skin color of population.
She was even more evil than that. She went over to Hitler
Yeah.
and helped Hitler build his worldview against the Jews and the Gypsies and all of the handicap. And she was instrumental
Yeah.
in the death of the Jews.
Well, and you talk about falsehoods, and I probably will step on some toes here, but Mother Teresa was not a saint.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
She was horrible. Forced baptisms, forced conversions, therapies on mentally handicapped people that didn't need to happen, forcing them to say that they're Catholic and all this stuff. I mean, she was not a saint. She was brutal.
Exactly. And she thought the best way to get closer to God is through suffering.
Yeah.
And so she made people suffer
Yeah.
to be closer to God, or tried not to fix their situation, or it was
Yeah.
just crazy.
Well, I say, as the kids say now, let him cook.
Yeah.
I want Trump to cook every single leader that comes in there. Get your country straight. And I know we have our own problems to work on.
Yeah.
And I'm welcome someone to let them cook here in our country. Tell our leaders, you got to quit voting for this silliness. This is ridiculous.
Absolutely, and it just keeps getting sillier and sillier.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I like to watch occasionally. He can be a little foul, but Greg Gutfeld.
Yeah.
And he's got a new show coming out that's on Fox Nation, which I don't subscribe to, and I never will. But and the show is they take people and they hide them away for 90 days so they don't know what the news is.
Yeah.
And then they go on and they have to tell which is a true story and which is a lie on the news. And he said the problem is all the lies that we made up are starting to become true.
Yeah.
And so we're having to change our lie story because the world's going that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else do we have up? You take control of the screen here, and let's see what you've got going on. We're going to try and go back and forth between articles we find interesting, and that's why you're seeing the swap in the screen here.
Here's an interesting one. So, a few years ago, the state of California, Gavin Newsom decided that it would be a brilliant idea to say by 2035, I think it is, that no more internal combustion engine cars could be sold in California. Therefore, all cars would have to be electric.
That's amazing. They must have stepped up their electrical grid way beyond what I know it is right now.
You would think so. I mean, in order to handle that many cars on an electrical grid, I'm thinking the electrical grid needs to be bolstered 5 to 10 times what it is now.
Was it last year or the year before last that was so cold that they were trying to divert power to heating, and they would say things like, don't charge your cars.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage is of EV in California. I assume it's probably a little higher than the rest of the nation, but it can't be more than 20%.
Well, and with that being said, I've seen, 20 or 30 chargers backed up for hours waiting to be used to charge, and it's like, well, if you're going to require everybody to have an electric car,
Yeah.
or your goal is to phase out the internal combustion engine, you have to have charging available for everyone at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I saw a really interesting video. If you get a chance, you might want to Google TED Talk Houston EV cars. And a guy who was doing a TED Talk in Houston, he was talking about EV cars, and if you really want to believe in carbon footprint and carbon offset and what it really means to the world, he said it takes 6 tons of carbon to build a normal combustion engine car. And he says, okay, so you want to alleviate that by building an EV. To build an EV car takes 20 tons of carbon emission.
Wow.
So you're already starting at a negative 14 tons.
Right.
But then he went and did all the calculations, and he said for that car, for the EV, to finally overcome the combustion engine car in its carbon offset, you have to drive that car without a battery exchange, without a motor exchange, without any problems for 483,000 miles. Now, the batteries go, what, 50,000, 60,000 miles?
Yeah, before they start becoming
Derated and degrade, and then soon enough, you're going to get 5 miles out of it, and you need a $20,000 battery. Now you got to reset your carbon offset. You got to go back to, okay, we just added 10 more tons of carbon to put a new battery in.
Well, and not only that, to dispose of that battery is far more harmful to the environment
Yeah.
than anything that was made petroleum-wise. And you say that about the batteries. There was a guy, I think, I can't remember where he was at, if he was in England or here, but anyway, his batteries went kaput in his Tesla, and it was going to be $25,000 or $30,000 to put new batteries in, and he says it's not worth it, and he blew up his car without the batteries because he says it's just not worth the money.
Yeah.
But all of the hazardous materials to build that battery
Yeah.
far exceeds.
$25,000 or $30,000, you can go buy a brand new car that is
Yeah.
already better at carbon offset than the car you were going to fix.
Yep, exactly.
It just, and it's part of this whole thing of the hypocrisy of it's really a visual or optics thing. It's not really about the planet.
Absolutely. If you're buying an electric car trying to save the world, that's not where I would put my money and my interest. Now, I watched a few other videos. I like to watch videos on vehicles and stuff like that. And there was a group out of Colorado that did a fantastic test. And they said, hey, we're going to put this Ford Lightning against the Hummer EV and against just a normal diesel truck.
Yeah.
And he says, what we're going to do is hook up a regular trailer that people would take on camping or whatever. And he says, if these cars perform, there's nothing wrong with it, but let's see how they perform. And I think the Lightning had like a 300 mile range, and then they put that trailer on it and started to pull it, and that jumped all the way down to 150.
Yeah.
And then as they were driving down the road, it was just going down by 2s and 3s. And they couldn't even get from Denver to Colorado Springs before they had to turn around.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, don't get me wrong, EVs are cool cars.
Oh, yeah, I
think
wouldn't mind
they're
having one.
awesome.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're fast. They got the coolest tech built into them, but they're just not a solution.
Right.
And they really aren't a carbon offset solution
No.
by any means. And the worst thing for me, and probably the thing that bothers me the most, is how is what are the batteries made out of? Cobalt? How is it
Lithium
mined?
and-
Lithium?
yeah.
How is it mined?
Yeah.
If you saw the conditions that these children, not
Yes.
adults, children are digging till they die in these open mines to get this stuff out.
Yeah.
How can you say you're for the world, you're for the population, you're for saving people, saving the environment, if you're forcing child labor to do these things?
Then I look at this. The person that makes the best EV in the world is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Elon Musk was hired by the federal government to go through and find anomalies in
Yeah.
the budget system and in payment systems, and Elon's there because he makes the best AI
Yep.
in the world to search this stuff. And since that happened, all of a sudden, all of these people that have EVs are no longer for EVs anymore because Elon
Yeah.
makes them. And we watched a senator buy this big Tahoe, huge truck, and brag about how he got rid of his Tesla just to buy this Chevy.
Well, the best thing about that in my whole thing is watching the people turn on Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And they're turning on him, but he's saving the nation money.
Yes.
And then what was his? What's the? I don't want to say it too harshly. What's the idiot's name who ran with Kamala?
Oh, Walls.
Walls.
Tim
And
Walls.
he was so happy one day on stage. He was talking about how bad Tesla was, and he was watching the stock drop.
Yep.
Well, I hate to tell him the stock's way above where it was when he started to talk about it.
You know what the sad thing is that company that Elon Musk has is probably more American than a lot of the other companies that are building a product similar.
Yeah.
And all these, I think he has 80,000 people employed. And so Tim Walls is wishing that those 80,000 people would lose money and lose their jobs.
Yeah, it's so the hypocrisy is just blown me
Yes.
away.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that we had things where they were holding double standards, but now it's just out in the open in broad daylight, wishing that Americans lose their jobs.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. But this is a good thing. The Senate here has overturned a Biden era restriction, which nullifies what California tried to do. So now the people in California are not resigned to having to buy an EV.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad that cooler heads have prevailed in that
Yes.
situation. It's really interesting. Well, the next thing I kind of wanted to chat about here was to look at what we talk about, lower prices on prescription drugs and what Trump is doing in our medical industry right now.
Yes.
And it is, in my opinion, I don't know the ins and outs of everything, but I agree with what he had to say. That there's no reason that the United States of America should be subsidizing medical of any kind, whether it's prescription drugs, procedures, doctors, any of it. We should not be subsidizing the entire world.
Yes. We've been on the cutting edge of all of that for I don't know how many years. I mean, they talk about and brag about how great the single payer insurance is all over, but guess where they come when there needs to be a procedure done.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a reason they come here, and there's a reason that the smartest doctors come here and practice here.
Well, one of the things was there was a medication that he was talking about. When you buy it in the UK, it's $100 or $188. But when you buy it in America, it's $1,800 per month.
I think that was that RO or Wegovy or something like that.
It's a GLP-1 medication.
Yes. And the guy was asking, why do I pay only 88 or 180? I can't remember. It was pretty low.
Yeah.
And then come to America and pay 3 times that, you know, and
part of that is in our legislative branch. They're saying we will pay the lion's share of this to get everything done, to get the medication ready to go, and then we'll pay off all the investment that you paid into that, but you need to make it available for everybody at a reasonable price. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. If it was done here, researched here, or researched with our funded taxpayer funds. It should be $100 for us.
Yes.
And $1,800 for those who don't have skin in the game.
Exactly. Or at very least, that needs to be a comparable cost. And this is one of the things that Trump's trying to do with the tariffs. And I know heads are exploding on tariffs. And I know that things are starting to come in, and people are starting to see that Trump has the receipts.
Yeah.
That tariffs make a difference. And the problem is that we put ourselves at such a disadvantage.
Yeah.
And we're crippling our own economy and our own people, and putting our own people in the poorhouse with policy.
Yeah. Well, and I understand the good nature of America when it was founded was we want to make the world better.
Yeah.
We want to do all we can to do what is right for everybody. But right for everybody doesn't mean that I have to pay 3 and 4 and 10 times the amount of something I already invested my tax money in.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, if they want to say, okay, fine, it's $900 worldwide for this prescription. Fine. They need to offset some of this. They're going to have to do some of the things here. And as far as I'm concerned with the tariffs, when Trump brings his receipts and he says, with the right tariffs, there's no income tax.
Yeah.
I'm for it. I am for it. And you want to see our economy grow? Things that are built here aren't tariffed.
Yep. And what that's going to do is that's going to bring jobs. Now, the thing that I don't think people understand, and this is something that I see the Democrats bring up continually is, well, what about this inflation? You know, prices are still high. Yeah. Well, my thing is, you are never going to see these prices go all the way back down to where they were. We're going to see a little bit of relief with energy. We can see energy starting to get a little better and stuff like that. But
eggs are down.
Eggs are down.
We haven't talked about that.
And it's funny that article says Trump's fiction is now reality. You know, it's just like he's still lying. But the thing that I see from this is what Trump is going to do is grow us out of inflation. And what that means is the American people are going to start putting more money in their pockets to where this food and stuff becomes an acceptable part of cost.
Yeah. And I understand the mentality of people who are just against him because they've been programmed to say that he's against everything I want.
Yeah.
But what they don't see is that he's actually for a lot of what they want. He just wants to go about it a logistically smart, financially smart way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems interesting when I watch like Man on the Street programs and they go out and they talk to somebody and they say, "Oh, what do you think about this comment?" You know, and if they think it's a Democrat that said it, they're all gung ho.
Yeah.
But when they find out Trump said it, all of a sudden it's trash. So it just depends on who says it to whether or not it's.
I remember they were giving out quotes. They're like, was this a racist quote? Oh, yeah, that's really racist. Well, Joe Biden said, well, he probably didn't mean it that way.
Yeah.
Come on. What a ridiculous thing to say.
Absolutely.
What else you want to talk about?
Well, I got one more thing here. And this is something that I bring up because I think it plays into what we were talking about earlier about things are going to get better and better until Jesus comes back. And my thing is that I think the world is going to get worse and worse.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some type of invasion of Israel at some time.
Yeah.
And we can see here is a major player that's part of the Gog-Magog named Iran. So Iran has officially announced that anything Israel does, especially around their nuclear sites, they're going to hold America responsible for. So what does that mean? How would Iran hold us responsible for that?
Well, then we should be holding Iran responsible for anything Gaza does, right? Anything Hamas does.
And Trump is. You know, he says if the Houthis attack us, we're holding Iran responsible. Now, we can hold Iran responsible. Do you think Iran has the ability to hold us responsible?
I was watching some of these videos about guys comparing the military might of countries, and I'm sorry, but Iran is this much of a concern right now. Now, if they have a nuclear weapon, to become a bigger concern.
Right.
But not that we won't be able to annihilate them. And I think that's part of the restraint of Trump, in my opinion, is I know his attitude, but he has restrained himself from doing what I think he would do if he had free reign of everything. I think he would wipe them out.
Yeah, I think so. And I've always said, the reason I'm not president is because there would be a lot of glass in that area.
Yeah.
I would have probably tried to eradicate the problem. One of the things I find interesting, and I don't know all of the capabilities of Iran, but I do know that Iran is connected to Russia,
Yeah.
which is connected to China,
Yep.
which is connected to North Korea.
Yeah.
And there was a guy named Dr. Pry, and he was part of Trump's, in his first term, his EMP commission. And Dr. Pry believes that there is a satellite that crosses over the United States every 12 hours that's North Korea's satellite. And it's appropriate size to drop an EMP on America. One of the things I find more interesting is, according to Dr. Pry and his commission, if America were to have an EMP come and knock out all of our power, that 90% of America would die within the first year.
Wow. And to think, women make fun of us men because we think about, I could survive. I could build a fire still. I could hunt.
Yeah.
But they make fun of us for it. But there's going to come a time where that's going to be a necessity. So young guys out there, get with your fathers, get with your uncles, get with your grandparents, and learn some skills, because if our grid goes down, you're going to need to hunt.
Yes.
You're going to need to build a fire.
I think of these people that live in these enormous cities.
Yeah.
People that live on the 50th floor of a penthouse or something like that. And most of these people think that food comes from the grocery store.
The government.
Yeah. They don't understand what it takes to get that food on your plate.
Well, I did hear another video talking about this. I know we've referenced many videos, but there was someone living in the city. Well, we'll just go out to those farmers and take stuff.
Oh,
but these are the same people who think the Second Amendment is ridiculous. Well, I have news for you. When you get out to that farm and you start stealing from it, especially if there's a food shortage going on and that farmer's trying to feed his family, you're going to find out why the Second Amendment is important.
Absolutely. And I think that America is not really seen in Bible prophecy, so it wouldn't surprise me for something like this to happen.
I think we trip over our own feet.
Yeah.
And we're out of the picture. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back again next week with some more, hopefully, humor in the news through a biblical lens.